Results were really good, and the company actually directly sort of links its strong results to its expansion overseas. That was in the release today. A press release that it put out just about a couple of weeks ago, it actually highlighted the idea of anime, saying that more than 50% of its global subscribers are watching the genre, a genre that is, believe it or not, relatively new to the Netflix platform. Roland Kelts joins us right now. He's author of the best-selling book, Japan, America, and a visiting professor at Waseda University, and an expert on Japanese culture and, more importantly, the export of that culture around the world. And Roland, I think anyone who's turned on Netflix and just gone through the offerings, even if you're not an anime fan, you'd be remiss not to notice just how much content from the anime universe is now on the Netflix platform. And I am curious as to what you think is driving that. Is that a concerted effort by the studios in Japan to get this content out? Is that Netflix pulling the content itself, or is this organically coming from the viewers themselves?
I would say the last two. It's Netflix pulling the material out of Japan and coaxing the studios into deals, and it's an organic explosion of fandom around the world. Anime has this unique global appeal. The characters travel very, very well. And I think Netflix has 33 different languages now that they dub anime. And so, you know, if you're talking about Pokemon and you're watching it in India, it's your Pokemon. It's an Indian Pokemon. If you're watching Pokemon in Indiana, it's your Pokemon. Pokemon's American all of a sudden. So anime travels very well. The characters are what Japanese call mokuseki, which means nationless, stateless characters. And that's part of the appeal. There's also just so many genres of anime. It's astonishing. Hundreds of series produced every year.
It is astonishing, and I like this idea of it being kind of stateless, and the idea that you could kind of take basically that animation and with the right dubbing sort of translate it for any market in a way that's going to be palatable for the local sensibilities. But of course, not every anime that comes out is a hit. I mean, there have been a lot of duds that they've put out, and I'm curious as to what you think separates sort of the ones that do sort of enter the cultural zeitgeist globally and the ones that just kind of fade away.
Well, they do. The studios produce, in many ways, too much anime. It's on television all the time here in Japan. And as you point out, a lot of series are duds. There's a system, a production system here, which is where production committees invest very, very little money into the projects so that if they have a big hit, the profits are enormous. What makes a show a big hit? You know, usually it's great storytelling. People who don't know anime, especially if they're not from Japan, they tend to focus on the visuals, the spiky hair and the lively action, etc. But usually what makes a story stick is the narrative itself. And I think one of the reasons anime is becoming so popular, especially with Gen Z, younger viewers, is that the Japanese style of storytelling is so different from the Hollywood three-act structure. And these episodes, they have cliffhangers, they go on, they probe deeper psychological realms. You know, Pokemon is up to, I think, over 1,000 pocket monsters. So you can grow the universe, and Japan has for years practiced something called the media mix, which just means transmedia. So you go from a manga series. You know, most anime are adapted from manga series. So if you have a very popular manga comic book series and you turn that into an anime, and then you get the T-shirts from Uniqlo, and then you get the costumes that you can wear to an anime expo, you can just explode the universe.
I know, Roland. I mean, Scarlett and I were just talking before the show about Uzumaki, which just came to Netflix earlier this year. That was a manga from like the 80s that finally got on. It's a little dark, Scarlett, but
reviving some old IP, right? Okay, so I guess the question here is, you mentioned that Pokemon in India and Pokemon in Indianapolis could be your own version of Pokemon because it was dubbed. talk about the economics of sub versus dub, right? Subtitles versus dubbing. The dubbing, as you made clear, allows people to engage with the content and develop a tie with the content in a way that subtitles don't. But the subtitles allow the viewers to understand the way that the anime should have been produced for the first time, right? How it should sound, how the characters do relate to each other. I'm just curious about the economics of that as anime becomes more popular to viewers all around the world.
That's an excellent question because it's a long-standing debate in the anime fan community. Voice acting in Japan is a very, very serious and celebrity-oriented business. And this stems from the post-war period when John Wayne was overdubbed in Japanese, and the Japanese actor who played John Wayne became famous, maybe more famous than John Wayne. So voice acting is very, very critical in Japan, and the voice actors themselves become superstars, celebrities. However, and so voice acting can be quite expensive in Japanese, the original Japanese. Dubbing is arguably less expensive because actors in Canada or other parts of the world don't make as much money. However, subtitling is appealing to a certain fan base because, as you just said, they want to hear the original Japanese. And some fans say the Japanese acting is so much better than the English language or Hindi language acting. But it's an interesting question because I've asked several directors and artists here in Japan how they feel about it. And quite a few artists, anime artists, prefer dubbing because then the viewer can appreciate all the work they've put into the art. If you're watching subtitles and reading across the bottom of the screen, you're missing some of the magical visual artwork that the guys and boys and girls worked so hard to create. So I've had anime directors say to me, "Oh, I can't stand subtitles because I hate to watch the audience staring at the bottom of the screen when all of the work I put into the visuals is getting missed."
Roland Kelts, thank you so much, giving us his take on this eternal debate, author of the best-selling book, Japan, America, and visiting professor at Waseda University. Did you watch that anime series?
I did.
Dubbed or with subtitles?
No, we had the subtitles on it. So, yeah, and it was
cool.
But he was right, though. I mean, the visuals in that, it's a lot going on, and if you are just reading the lines at the bottom, you are missing a lot.
All right, still ahead, Netflix's earnings call is currently underway. We're going to parse through all the latest. You look at Netflix's shares, moving down about 1%. Not a pretty big move given what it's done in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be back in a moment. This is The Close on Bloomberg.
Netflix reported earnings this afternoon, and the earnings call is currently underway. The company telling investors that they see healthy member growth and no major impact from economic uncertainty. Chris Palmieri of Bloomberg News, who covers media and entertainment in Los Angeles, joins us now. So, Chris, looking at the headlines that have crossed, what gets your attention?
Well, it looks like they're trying to reassure folks. They did increase their forecast for the profit margins for the year a little bit, and some people were suggesting maybe this is just due to a bump they're getting from foreign currency. So much of their business is overseas now. Looks like they're trying to reassure folks that they're going to continue investing in TVs and movies programming, premium stuff, and they're still going to grow their profits. That their fundamental business is pretty sound.
They also say here that their content expenses will ramp in Q3. Q4. I mean, we were talking a little bit earlier on the program about the big slate of content, a very ambitious slate and one that likely could potentially lead to an increase in viewership. What's the balance between that new slate, Chris, and the amount of money they have to spend on it?
Well, it's interesting because if you're looking for a downside in the numbers today, they did say overall viewership was only up 1% in the first half, which is sort of nothing compared to the double-digit, revenue and profit numbers they're showing. So, and they said, well, that's just because, a lot of this content that we're producing is coming in the second half. So that's going to be the test. If all this programming they're talking about, boxing matches, NFL games at Christmas, movies, big expensive series. All of that really translates into a growth in viewership.
You know, Romaine and I were talking about how in the past, Reed Hastings had talked about the competition of Netflix being sleep, being gaming. In the past, they've also talked about YouTube being a competitor, and we've seen YouTube's market share increase, whereas Netflix's has stayed fairly stagnant. Is Netflix's goal to overtake YouTube? Is that a reasonable goal?
Yes, that's always what they've said is, their competition isn't Disney or HBO or that. One of the big picture themes here, though, is, and we just saw this today with Peacock raising the price of its service $3 a month, that's almost 40%, is that the market is getting less competitive. All of these guys are trying to wring more profits out of their streaming services, which, in some cases have been money losers for quite a while. And so Netflix doesn't feel the pressure to cut, its price or in any way, economize there. I mean, it is raising prices as well, and that's a big part of what it's doing. And these ad sales, which they said would double this year, this is a revenue opportunity that's driving the profit growth.
All right, and a record quarter for the company. Chris Palmieri, our man out there in Los Angeles, as we, of course, focus in on Netflix, the new big Hollywood studio out there. Let's push ahead to what could potentially move the market over the next 24 hours. That includes several earnings, including from American Express, 3M, Charles Schwab, and Huntington Bank.
And in fact, we're going to have a conversation with the CEO of Huntington Bank at 3:30 p.m. right here on The Close.
We're also going to get some economic data starting at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, housing starts and building permits certainly key, especially as mortgage rates stay relatively high.
And we're also going to get a read on sentiment, the UMich sentiment numbers out at 10 a.m. And then I think this is interesting. The Treasury Secretary on a visit to Japan. Presumably this is about the trade deal or some sort of trade deal.
That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
They keep promising that it's around the corner. I mean, it's been going on for months now, or weeks at least.
Yeah, well,
feels
maybe,
like months.
Maybe we'll see if Roland Kelts can meet with him and talk to him about the anime economy.
Yeah.
All right, that does it for us. Please tune in tomorrow for The Close, and for your politics coverage, stick around.